There are people who spend years planning to become parents. They prepare a nursery, they read books, they save money. They make lists, they talk about whether they're ready. I did none of that. In fact, I never wanted children. And then one night, a 5-year-old boy showed up at my house for what was supposed to be a few days. 2 days later, his baby sister joined him. And somehow, without planning it, preparing for it, or having any clue about what the hell I was doing, I became their dad. Welcome back to Family Beyond Labels. Today, I wanted to tell you about the night I became my kids' dad, long before a judge made it official. And I want to talk honestly about what happened after that night. Not the polished adoption story that you hear about all the time. Not the version where I immediately knew exactly what I was doing and everything fell perfectly into place. Because that is not what happened. What happened was messy, terrifying, exhausting, beautiful, and probably the most important thing that has ever happened to me. So my son came to my house as an emergency foster placement. My roommate at the time knew his caseworker, and I wasn't even really part of the equation. You see, my son and his sister were living in the same foster home, but their foster mom felt that she couldn't handle both of them anymore. She needed him out of the house that night. And before you go judging her, there's a lot of reasons behind it that I'm not going to get into because that's her story to tell if she ever chooses to tell it. So the plan was simple. He would come stay with us for a few days while they found somewhere else for him to go. That was it. No grand plan, no calling, no divine beam of light shining down while dramatic music played in the background. Just an emergency phone call and a child who needed somewhere safe to sleep. My son was 5 years old, almost 6. And when he arrived, he had a lot of his belongings with him. Enough that it was pretty obvious his foster mother did not expect or want him to come back. I remember looking at all these things and thinking, this really is not an overnight bag. This child was being moved again. And my first thought was not, I want to be a father. My first thought was simply, this kid really needs someone. That first night, he was overstimulated. He had been taken out of the home he knew and brought into a strange place with people he didn't know. But he let me care for him. He let me change him. He let me give him a bath. He let me get him ready for bed. And looking back, those things seem enormous. At the time, I didn't fully understand what it meant for a child who had just been moved into another unfamiliar home to allow a complete stranger to care for him in those vulnerable ways. But he did. We got him settled into bed, and his worker stayed for a while afterward. She started talking about his situation. I already knew about my son's diagnosis. None of that was hidden from me. But then she explained that they weren't just looking for another temporary foster placement. They were looking for an adoptive home for him. And before I could overthink it, before fear had time to catch up with my mouth, I said, I'll take him. No hesitation, no thought behind it. And probably, if you really look at it at that point, you would probably think, what the hell were you thinking? Are you stupid or something? I had only known this child for a matter of hours. I had never wanted children. And suddenly, I was volunteering to adopt one. Which seems completely irrational when you say it out loud like that. Then his worker told me that he had a younger sister, and I knew immediately that I could not let them be separated. I couldn't take him and leave her behind. So 2 days later, my daughter came home too. She was 18 months old. And suddenly, in the span of about 48 hours, I had gone from being a man who had never wanted children to having 2 of them. This was the moment reality finally punched me directly in the face. I remember looking around and thinking, what have I done? Everything hit me at once. The responsibility, their needs, the appointments, the routines, the permanence of what I had just offered to do. I started asking myself every question imaginable. Am I ready? Can I actually do this? Am I being completely stupid for thinking I can? I wish that I could say that after a few days, some magical parental instinct kicked in, and I suddenly had everything under control. It didn't. It took months before I felt like that. It took months before I had any kind of rhythm. And during those months, there were a lot of moments where I felt like I was failing. I missed appointments. I didn't always know what the kids needed. I had no real experience caring for children, let alone 2 children with significant developmental, medical, and emotional needs. There were moments where I felt embarrassed. There were moments where I felt like I was doing everything wrong. Like everybody else knew how to parent, and I somehow missed the orientation. And I learned something very quickly. Love is not enough. Love matters. Love is the foundation. But love does not automatically teach you how to manage appointments. It does not teach you how to navigate services, schools, doctors, caseworkers, behaviors, trauma, developmental delays, or special needs. Love does not instantly give you patience when you are exhausted. It does not automatically create a routine. You still have to do the work. You still have to learn. You still have to screw things up, admit it, and try again the next day. I listened to advice. Some of it helped. Some of it absolutely did not. Because parenting in one family is not necessarily going to work in another. What works for one child may not work for the child sitting directly next to them. I had to find my own way. I had to learn my son. I had to learn my daughter. And I had to learn who I was becoming. It mostly took time. Time, repetition, mistakes, and continuing to show up even when I felt like I had no business being there. And eventually, the chaos started to become our normal. Not calm necessarily, let's not get carried away, but normal. There was one moment with my son that changed everything in me. He looked at me. And with my son, communication is not dependent on words. My son is autistic and nonverbal, as you guys well know. Sometimes you understand what he is telling you through his face, his body, his eyes, or the way he chooses to be near you. And in that moment, I could see it in his eyes. He was saying, I'm trusting you. That look brought every emotion with it. Love, fear, protectiveness, responsibility, terror, and love. Lots of love. Because being trusted by a child is beautiful. But it is also heavy. Especially when that child has already had adults leave, fail him, or decide that caring for him was too difficult. In that moment, this stopped feeling temporary. I was his dad. Not legally, not officially, but in the place that mattered, I was his dad. My bond with my daughter formed more slowly, and it formed differently. That does not mean better or worse, just different. Luna could eventually communicate in a more typical way. My son and I built our connection through trust, routine, body language, and learning to understand each other without relying on spoken words. Now, when my daughter came to me at 18 months old, she was not crawling or talking, so it took time. But I remember when she finally said, "Dada." And she didn't just say it at me. She said it to me. There's a difference. She knew who I was. She chose that word for me. And that was when I knew she saw me as her dad. The kids' relationship with each other is also different from what people might expect. Because of my son's autism, he doesn't necessarily play with her or interact with her in a typical sibling way. But he is always looking for her. He keeps track of where she is. He wants to know that she is okay. And she may not fully understand his way of loving yet, but she watches out for him too. They are learning each other's language, just like I had to learn theirs. I'm going to tell you right now, she is a jealous little girl. She is daddy's girl and she does not want to share me. But she loves her brother and she looks out for him. Now, adoption was always the goal. There was not a serious possibility that the children would return to their biological parents. The parental rights were being terminated as soon as the legal process allowed. But that did not mean I felt secure. I had already chosen the kids. What scared me was that somebody else could decide that I was not fit to keep them. Every mistake felt bigger because of that. A missed appointment did not just feel like a normal new parent mistake. It felt like evidence. Like proof that somebody could point to and say, "See, he can't handle this." I felt like I had to prove myself constantly. To caseworkers, to doctors, to teachers, to friends, to family, and most of all, to myself. I wish I could tell you that feeling disappeared after the adoption was finalized. It didn't, and it still hasn't. I still feel like I have to prove that I am enough sometimes. I still question myself. I still wonder whether I am doing the right things. The difference is that now I understand something I didn't understand back then. Good parents question themselves. They worry because it matters to them. The people who believe they are perfect are usually the ones who should probably be keeping an eye on. Now, people love to say it takes a village to raise a child. And before the adoption, many people told me that they would be part of that village. They said, if you ever need anything, call. Well, calls were made and excuses were given. What I learned is that some people love the idea of supporting you. They just don't love it when supporting you requires their time, effort, or inconvenience. I had friends who were used to the version of me who could drop everything for them. The version of me who would always help. The version who made them a major priority. Once I became a dad, I could not be that person anymore. My children had to come first. Some friendships ended, others did not end dramatically, they just became quieter. Fewer calls, fewer invitations, less contact. Even some of the friendships that did survive slowly became more distant. So yes, they say it takes a village, but most of the time, my village has been a village of one. Being that village has cost me things, friendships, sleep, relationships, parts of the life I had before, but I don't necessarily miss the person I used to be. I think some other people miss him because he was more convenient. I do not regret becoming a dad, not for 1 second. But you know, sometimes I want to run away. Not for long, just for a few hours. I don't want to leave my family, not disappear forever. I just want complete and utter silence. I want to do nothing, see nothing, hear nothing, think nothing, and feel nothing. I just want to exist without anybody needing anything from me. Just for a little bit. Now, cooking and woodworking give me some of that peace. But the closest I get is after the kids are asleep, when the house finally becomes quiet. So I stay up late. It costs me the next day, absolutely, but sometimes losing sleep is the price I pay to remember that I am still a person. Parent math is ridiculous. You sacrifice sleep to protect your sanity, and then you lose your sanity because you didn't sleep. But somehow, it still feels worth it. Now, on adoption day, the court asked me to say a few words, and I completely fell apart. I was trying to explain how much I loved them and how happy I was that they were in my life. But all the emotions I had been carrying finally came out. The fear, the exhaustion, the mistakes, the appointments, the nights I wondered whether I could do it. The pressure to prove myself. The moment Dakota looked at me and trusted me. The first time my daughter said "Dada" to me. It all came out at once. I felt complete. Because I had started this journey believing I was stepping in to help save 2 children. But somewhere along the way, they had saved me too. They saved me from a life I didn't even know I was missing. When we walked out of that courthouse, I felt accomplished. The legal process was finally finished. I had proven to myself that I could do it. And my children finally had permanence. The next morning, our lives were mostly the same. The same routines, the same chaos, the same needs, the same laundry that apparently reproduces when nobody is looking. But there was a new sense of purpose. The court had finally recognized what we had already made true. We were a family. Now, becoming their dad changed the way I see myself. It shows me that being single and gay does not mean that I cannot have a family. It does not mean that I cannot make a difference. Families do not have to fit one particular picture to be real. They are built through commitment, through trust, through showing up, through bath time, appointments, missed sleep, fear, mistakes, laughter, and choosing each other again every single day. People sometimes say that I chose my kids. I don't think I did. I know I didn't. It was fate. Fate put my son in my house for what was supposed to be a few days. Fate brought me my daughter 2 days later. And none of us left the moment the same. Someday I hope they understand that. I hope they understand that becoming their dad never really felt like a choice. It felt like the life I was always supposed to find. And for anybody considering foster care or adoption, I want you to know this. You are going to question yourself. You are going to wonder whether you are ready. You are going to worry that you are not enough. But I'm telling you, there is no perfect time. There is no moment when every fear disappears, your finances are flawless, your home is spotless, and you suddenly possess all the wisdom of every parent who has ever lived. You do not have to feel completely ready. Being willing to seriously consider opening your life to a child may mean that you are already ready enough to begin. Trust yourself, trust the process, and stockpile money. Seriously, children eat like they are preparing for winter. Now, the day before my son arrived, I was a man who never wanted children. Today, I cannot imagine my life without them. I thought I was giving them a family, but they gave me one too. And I would choose this life every single time. Thank you for listening to Family Beyond Labels. Until next time, remember, Families are not defined by how they begin, what they look like, or what labels the world places on them. They are defined by the people who keep showing up. Thanks for listening. You guys have a great night.